But so good to see everybody. How many of y'all already have a garden in growing this summer? How many of y'all have anything left after the drought for the summer? Okay. Well, you know, it's time to start thinking about things that we can grow and harvest literally throughout the winter months. And gosh, it's just, you know, having a little bit of rain, having a little bit more moisture in the soil, life is just good. What can I say? I was reading something very interesting online yesterday talking about all the problems with today's food supply, and boy, it just brought home all the reasons we ought to be growing our own food. The food you get at the grocery store, it's less nutritious to begin with because of the soils it's growing in. Our soils are so totally, cropland so totally worn out as far as the minerals go. The fact that most of the food you get in the grocery store is picked when it's green and hard as a rock just so that they can ship it, which means all the good sugars and vitamins and minerals really haven't had time to develop. So much of what we eat is processed, which already reduces the quality of stuff that wasn't very good to begin with. Not to mention the problems with the pesticides and all the different stuff on it. There are just so many reasons to grow your own, and I like to think of this summer as giving us the opportunity to have the vegetable gardens we really wanted to have, because you know all that grass that died this summer? You don't need to put more grass there, you just need to expand your vegetable garden, and now you don't have to worry about killing out the grass in order to plant more veggies. At least that's my attitude about this sort of thing. As I think most of the gardeners here will tell you, no garden is ever big enough. So seriously, this is, even you know, you never have a big enough garden. How much do you have in production now?
About a half acre.
About half an acre. Yeah, that's a good start. That's a good start. That's enough to feed a family of two without any problem. But no, it's just any garden is a good start, but of course, the bigger the garden, the more that you can grow. And when you stop and think about this time of year, things that you can be planting, you can be planting broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage. It's almost time, we're going to talk about all these things individually. It's almost time to plant garlic and shallots and onions and leeks. Not to mention with leafy vegetables, there are about 15 kinds of lettuce you can grow, plus chard, plus mustard, plus spinach. And then in your root crops you can grow carrots and beets and turnips. And if you've got a 5x7 vegetable garden, you're not going to be able to get all that in there. But so anyway, no garden really is ever too big as long as you can maintain it. So create all the space that you possibly can, you know, for a vegetable garden. Now, what I want to do today is talk a little bit about soil preparation, about getting ready to plant, and then just kind of go through a bunch of the different plants, the times you plant them, just a few techniques about growing them. First of all, let me ask, how many people are here for the first time? How many people this first of the seminars you've come to? Okay, couple of things that we do. This is very informal. If there's anything you're not clear on, if you have any questions as we go along, please don't hesitate to stop me and ask me. If it's appropriate, I'll answer it right then. If it's something I'm going to cover in a little while, I'll put you off for a few minutes. But that's point number one. Point number two is we have this little game that we play that many of the more seasoned veterans will tell you. If there's something that you don't want to admit is going on in your own garden, it's very simple. You stick up your hand and you say, my neighbor couldn't come this morning, but he or she wanted me to ask you. And therefore you can ask all the questions you want without pointing that incriminating finger at yourself. But anyway, the most important things that you're going to need to grow a garden are good sunlight, which obviously pick the sunniest place that you can to grow things. Good fertility in the soil, which means good fertilizer. And this is the stuff, well, these are two very similar products. This is the Medina Granular Organic, or they call it Growing Green. They are now taking that product, adding a few more things to it, and we're putting it under the name of Landscape Essentials. This just has a little more in it than this does, but no need to buy a special product that says garden fertilizer. This stuff is as good as it comes. It's good for your grass, your trees, your shrubs, your ground covers, but it's also excellent in the garden. It's what I've used for years. And the only thing about it, it doesn't do any good in the bag. So put it in your garden and use plenty of it. If you're going to plant individual plants, like you'd be planting for broccoli and cauliflower and things like that, we sort of do one technique. If you're going to be planting things in rows, we do something a little bit different. So anyway, the good fertilizer is one thing. The other thing that you will never have too much in the vegetable garden is good organic material. And for most of us, that simply means compost. Make all the compost you possibly can. And then when you need more, if you're buying it in a bag, we personally think that the Ladybug Revitalizer compost is the best stuff going in a bag. If you're buying buying compost in bulk, I like the New Earth product probably better than any of the others. I'll put Fertile Garden Supply second in line. Sadly, I've not been real impressed with Gardenville compost ever since Malcolm sold the business several years ago. It's just not what it used to be. But the New Earth stuff is excellent. I usually don't buy it from New Earth. I buy it from Stone and Soil Depot, because if I call New Earth, Clayton says, yeah, I'll get it to you next week. If I call Stone and Soil, they say, we'll get it to you this afternoon. Same price, they just get it to you a little bit faster. But however much compost you think you need in the garden, if you use about twice that much, then you'll probably be in better shape. Now, you guys are still rooming here if you want to come in and sit. Anybody? Don't feel like you have to stand out there. Yes?
I'm sorry, but light, how many hours of light is the minimum?
It really depends on what you want to grow. If you want to grow leafy things like lettuces and all, you can probably get by with 6 hours of sunlight. If you're really going to go grow good broccoli and things like that, it needs to be probably 10 hours. So when in doubt, there's no such thing really in the fall as too much sunlight, and the more you have, the better off you will be. Now, what I do where I'm going to plant individual plants, and this is basically the same thing we do for tomatoes and peppers and eggplant and things in the spring, but where I'm going to put out individual plants of broccoli and cauliflower, I'll start with the fertilizer. I'll usually take about a cup of fertilizer, just put it in a spot on the ground. Then I'll take some of the compost. Did we get, I don't know if he brought a bag of, yeah, here's the compost right here. Then I will take maybe the equivalent of 1/4 of a bag, a good, bucket full of that. I'll dump it right on top of the fertilizer, and then I'll just sort of make a little crater in the top of it, and that's what I'm going to plant my plant down into. When I'm going to be planting things in a row, what I'll do is take my little triangular digger and I'll make that row that I'm going to be planting things in. And then I'll go through just with some of the fertilizer, and I'll just kind of come along and just dribble it right into the row. And this organic fertilizer simply don't burn. I mean, I suspect you could open that bag, plant directly into it, and things would probably grow very well. It'd get a little bit expensive. But when in doubt, use a little bit extra. And what I will do is, go down the row, put the fertilizer in, then I'll go down and just, put a pile of compost along the top of it. Then I'll, in effect, go back in and open it back up, make a trench out of it, mix a little bit of the material together, and then I'll just plant directly into that. And of course, after you plant, just water very thoroughly. The fertilizer that you're putting in now will carry things probably for a month or so. And then I'll start following it up with some liquid fertilizer. And again, we do kind of the same thing. Medina makes a product that they call Has to Grow. We just have them make something a little bit better out of Has to Grow. It's the same price. We call it Natural Solutions. They just add extra seaweed and extra humates and everything to the Has to Grow. We went to him several years ago and said, if you were doing Has to Grow over, how would you make it better? And he said, we'd do extra seaweed, we'd do extra humates and a couple other things. And we said, well, fine. Make the stuff that you wish you'd made and put it into a bottle and put our name on it. So follow up after things have been growing for a month or so. If you want the absolute best production, go back and feed every couple of weeks. Now, in the fall, we never know when it's going to get cold. And that can always be a little bit of a challenge. And the plants that we're going to talk about today, for the most part, are totally cold hardy. They will take a freeze without any damage at all once they get established and start growing. But even cold hardy things like radishes and beets, even cold hardy things like broccoli, when they first come up as little bitty plants, they are going to be very sensitive to cold damage. I had the problem this spring. I planted radishes when I thought it was going to be safe. It wasn't going to get real cold anymore. They came up. They're absolutely beautiful little plants, about like so. Got real cold and about 95% of them froze. If you're home, you can do something about that. Patrick, where's my... okay, didn't make it out here. There is a fabric material